What's up everyone, it's Kadi with Money Investing. So let me know in the live chat if you guys can see me without any issues and if you guys can hear me as well. So we should be all set, we should be all good to go. Here we are with yet another market open live stream, and so thank you so much for joining in. NEO is up a little bit over 4% pre-market. We got the VIX that's down over 3.3%. We got the broader market, so the NASDAQ is bouncing back higher, up over 40 basis points. And we got the S&P 500 ETF, ticker symbol SPY, that's up over 14 basis points. And we got the Dow that's also up over 13 basis points as well. All right, so you guys can hear me, perfect. That's great. So yeah, we're filling yet another gap for the markets. So if you take a look at SPY, you'll notice that we did see a little bit of a push down all the way down to lows of 435. And now we're moving back up, potentially to new all-time highs, which are sitting at 441. For the QQQ, we were down yesterday quite a bit, trading as low as 360, but the buyers really stepped in to push us past over 365 once again, and we're like in a spitting distance away from all-time highs. Every single dip has been bought up recently. We haven't really seen a strong pullback or a correction yet for the broader markets. The last one when we saw was back in May. For the NASDAQ, when we dropped a little bit over 7.6%, I'd call this like a decent sized correction. And before that was, of course, in the beginning of this year, in March. So wonder if you're going to put another hanging man candle for the SPY, because the last time the FOMC meeting happened, it was the same thing. Yeah, so that's another thing, right? The FOMC meeting is actually going to be very, very important for us to look into today. I'm actually going to be live. So this right here is going to be a live stream for about an hour or so. We're going to go over the market open. Where the market opens in about 18 minutes. So we'll cover some of the stocks, we'll go over market open, but then I'll kind of take a break and then come back around midnight for me, but 2 p.m. around your Eastern time to go over the FOMC meeting, which is going to be over here. So this right here is going to be the live event that's actually going to be happening today, so July 28th. We've got the live video, FOMC press conference, where Jerome Powell is going to be addressing inflation. Of course, he's going to be going over a lot of different questions as well. Who is a famous footballer? Timothy, who are you talking about? So yeah, so we're gonna be listening in on this call. It's gonna be, oh my God, really? Now everybody knows about that. But no, thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. But this is what we're going to be talking. So 1 hour live stream press conference. Also going to be answering some questions from different media, from different press conferences. So we'll be listening in on this as well. Super important. So when we get to 200 people watching, I'm just waiting for more people to join in. Then we'll kind of do like a quick thank you to all of you guys. But saw it on Google. Good job. That's great. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So NEO, yep, seeing a great pre-market run up over 3.6%. This right here is going to be a little bit of a support right there at 30 at 50-ish. So 30 at $50 is kind of like the support that we have talked about in our previous updates for NEO. So we perfectly came down to that support at 30 at 70. So lows for yesterday was 30 at 66. So if you come over to our NEO analysis from here, you'll notice that we perfectly bounced off of that $38.50. This is the level that we talked about as being one of the most, as being one of the strongest levels of support, and before the buyers kind of stepped in once again to push us past. And this right here is the pre-market run-up that we're seeing. XPeng probably up also pre-market, so up over 5.62% after an absolutely brutal sell-off yesterday. So we're seeing that momentum back up to the upside. We'll see if we actually see some more move to the upside, some more momentum to the upside as well. Talking about Li Auto, ticker symbol LI, also seeing a move to the upside, up over 6% after the sell-off of almost 14% yesterday. So across the board, we're seeing a lot of move to the upside. I'm assuming Baba is also up. So Alibaba up another 2.6% and has been going up after retesting 179. I can tell you that much. Like Alibaba right now seems like very, very attractive. Like this valuation for Alibaba stock, it's so tempting to jump in on Alibaba right now at these levels. I mean, this is hands down one of the top 10 like most undervalued stocks in the markets right now, hands down. It has to be in the top 10 companies. So I'm just like really kind of tempted to start a new position in Alibaba right now. It's just at 180, like 190 levels, like these levels are like just really attractive for Alibaba. But it's just there's the geopolitical risk that you can't really, regardless of how much research you put in, that's the geopolitical risk that can kind of really blindside you any day. Like that can happen anytime. And if you're comfortable with that risk, all the power to you. But if you're not comfortable with the volatility, like I showed you guys yesterday, there was a lot of gap ups and gap downs. We were just kind of going back and forth quite a bit. If you're not comfortable with that, then of course the volatility is not for you. But for me, I really don't mind starting a small position. But it's just that, whether to pull the trigger, whether there's more downside, we'll see how it kind of plays out by the day. All right, so I first want to thank each and every one of you guys for subscribing to the channel. If you haven't, make sure that you subscribe. We finally hit 60,000, so thank you so much for that, and cheers to that, to all of you guys for being a part of our community. I really appreciate each and every one of you guys. So thank you so much for being here and spending the time, every morning during our morning live streams, but of course being a part of our channel as well. So one more milestone, we just hit that today, so super excited. And again, thank you so much, and I appreciate you guys. All right, so we got the VIX that's down a little bit over 3.26%, trading back over 18 levels, but that right there, the 20 levels is going to be the resistance level that we have been watching very closely. So we got earnings coming up today. These right here are all the companies that are reporting today. So Wednesday, July 27th or 28th, we got Facebook. By the way, are you guys trading any of these stocks right now for earnings? We got Boeing reporting. We got Spotify, we got Pfizer, we got Shopify, McDonald's, Facebook, PayPal. Which companies are you guys most excited about today for earnings? We also got Wynn Resorts. They're also reporting their earnings. Super exciting. And then we got Xilinx. I'm actually going to be looking into this company particularly because AMD is going to have a merger with them at the end of this year. So that's going to be super exciting and important for me. I think Deutsche Bank already reported pre-market, if I'm not mistaken. I think they already reported their earnings. But for the most part, there are going to be few companies. So PayPal is actually part of my portfolio, so I'm going to be watching them very closely, listening in on their earnings call over the weekend. I'm not listening in on any earnings call right now because of the shortage of time that I have, because there's just so many earnings calls in the live streams and there's so much going on. But I have time allocated on the weekend where I will be listening in on all the earnings call from Tesla, from Apple, Microsoft, Google, AMD, Facebook, PayPal. So I will be spending a lot of time taking notes and what they actually reported or basically said. So we know the numbers, but I want to listen in on the earnings call as well. So that's that. Then we got Facebook today. We got Shopify, which has been hitting new all-time highs. I think it's passed over 1,600 if I'm not mistaken, the all-time high. But McDonald's reporting today, Pfizer, we got Qualcomm. And Boeing is going to be very interesting on the day to really get a good feel for where the production stands, where the capacity stands, how are they doing with these different aircrafts moving forward as well. And then Ford, right? Ford is like a direct competitor with a lot of other electric vehicle companies as they continue to kind of roll out their electric versions of the Ford 150 and other vehicles as well. So I think that's going to be very interesting. And then Wynn Resorts with the reopening of the economy and how the vaccination is going, right? So that's going to be super important for the markets as well. So, all right, someone's watching Teledoc. Teledoc was yesterday, right? So I don't know how they actually did or where they're trading, but let's take a quick look. So Teledoc is down almost 10% pre-market. That is a pretty substantial drop. That is a pretty incredible drop here. So, all right, so Teledoc shares fell 10% after the company reported a wider net loss in Q2. See, yeah, that's the thing. Like in this market, if you don't have picture perfect earnings, you're absolutely going to get destroyed, in my opinion. Think about this, right? Apple pre-market, it's down, I think. The last time I checked. So it's down over 1.21%. Apple reported picture perfect earnings yesterday, right? Absolutely phenomenal earnings. But there was just this little caveat that they basically said that moving forward, they're going to have some slowing down on growth because of supply chain constraints and the silicon, that's the chip, and they're struggling to meet up with the demand and the supply chain constraints with that, right? That was because of the slower growth that they're now seeing. What happened? The stock is down over 1.2%. Now imagine if they had like a decent or even worse earnings, right? Apple did. That would have absolutely been a a little bit of a downtrend for like 2 to 3%. So Andrew says, so you overuse the word moving forward. So actually, I'm gonna put it on a T-shirt. I'm gonna put it on the T-shirt, moving forward, on the T-shirt. So that's kind of like, I know that I use that word a lot. I realize it. Yeah, now that I think about it, I do realize it. But for Teledoc, unfortunately, that is one of the reasons why it is down. Let's see if we can actually break down what they actually reported. So Teledoc Tuesday reported second quarter loss of 86 cents per share, wider loss than 34 cents a year earlier. So year over year, we're seeing a decline. We're seeing a bigger loss. So analysts polled were expecting 54 cents. So that right there, 54 cents versus 86 cents. That's negative EPS. That's a bigger loss, and missing expectations as well. Revenue increased to 503 million from 241 million. So that's almost double revenue. So 100% growth year over year. Analyst expectations were at 499. So beating analyst expectation for the top line revenue, coming in at 100% growth year over year, but missing expectations and actually widening the loss per share, right? EPS. The company expects Q3 revenue at 510 to 520 million and a loss of 68 cents per share versus street views of 513 million. So kind of like in the mid range, and the revenue 48 cents in loss per share. So also they actually guided us for a bigger loss than the expectation. So not only so we had like a double beat instead of a quadruple beat. So the two things that we really missed out on was the actual EPS, which was widened based on the analyst expectations, and the future guidance also was not as bright as what analysts were expecting for. So full year 2021 guidance, 2 billion to 2.03 billion versus prior outlook of 1.97, and a loss of $3.35 to $3.60 per share, and the street forecast was $2.86. So widening loss for the company. And I'm going to be very interested to actually learn more about how and why their loss is widening. What are they actually spending money on? But the support level I would watch on the day is going to be right here, 130. $130 is going to be the level to watch. Previous support that we validated coming in from May 12th and 13th before seeing a rally of 33%. So that right there is going to be the level to watch before seeing a pullback here, validated that support, and now we're seeing a huge gap down for the stock as well. So 130 is going to be the level on the day for Teledoc. So mRNA, Moderna is actually up pre-market, is it? So 1.67%. Yes, it's already trading at new all-time highs. RSI overbought, MACD overbought. So kind of staying away from this right now. But of course, it has been a great trade and even a good investment recently as well. So up over 154%. TLRY, so Tilray. So let's take a look. So up almost 12% here. Looks like it's kind of bouncing off of a decent support right here at close to, I want to say $12.93, close to $13. Actually, let me lower that a little bit. So that right there is going to be the level at close to $12.50. So we got a really strong resistance to fight here for TLRY at close to $16.50 level, $16.46. And the reason why that's so important is because that's the 50 EMA and the 200 SMA sitting perfectly right together for Tilray moving forward. So that right there is going to be the resistance for us to break out over in order for us to see some more higher highs and higher lows for this stock. So all in all, I mean, I think the earnings from yesterday were pretty strong. I think we got beats all across the board. I think Visa had a really strong number as well. I think the stock is down pre-market or pretty much so flat right now, but this stock has just been charging higher like there's no ceiling. I mean, this has just been on a consistent uptrend, breaking out to new all-time highs, and the market cap now sits at over 500 billion. This is like one of those companies that we don't pay a lot of attention to, but it kind of sneaks up, right? Visa, it used to be a part of my portfolio, but then I exited out of that position. Now in hindsight 2020, I shouldn't have, but a great stock and a great company in my opinion to own. But Apple also had a great earnings. AMD we broke down earlier. I think AMD is up over 1.5% pre-market right now, so now up over 2.7%. Trading past over $93.50. So next resistance to watch on this one is going to be at $95. So that right there is going to be the level. And like I couldn't find a single thing in AMD's report that was actually that I could have like cherry picked out and be like, yeah, this, you know what, this is something that really kind of turns me off. But it wasn't anything like that. Revenue 100% growth year over year. EPS more than 200, or I think it was 300% growth. Margins expanding year over year. Cost control, operating expenses coming down. When you take a look at the future guidance, raised year over year, right? 60% now they're expecting to grow at over $15 billion in revenue. Cash sitting at well over $3 billion. Debt only at $300 million. That's like 1/10 of the cash amount. So all in all, really, really strong numbers across the board for AMD as well. And different segments, when you look at the EPYC and computing graphics, all those different sectors doing really well for advanced micro devices. Enphase, I didn't get a chance to look at Enphase Energy. So down about 2.3%, trading as low as 168. So let me see if I can find that report for Enphase Energy. So again, this is also a profitable company, so let's take a look. So Enphase Energy on Tuesday reported second quarter adjusted diluted EPS of 53 cents, up from 17 cents a year earlier, so strong number there. Analysts polled at 42 cents, so that's a beat. Revenue at 316 million from 125. That's also a huge revenue jump, more than 100%. The street estimate was $311, so revenue beat, EPS beat, and the company expects Q3 revenue of 335 to 355 versus street prediction of 341 million. So kind of in like the middle range of the analyst expectation. So strong beat in my opinion for Enphase Energy as well. And this is also a company in like that EV sector, not electric vehicles per se, but like renewable energy and solar space, which I think has a lot of potential to grow as well. Profitable company, strong revenue growth for them as well. So I think it easily should be, in my opinion, should be trading at well over $200 per share. So that's that. Let's take a look at Teradyne. Teradyne is also a company that I'm very interested in. It's kind of coiling into this symmetrical triangle that I think has a lot of potential. So this right here is the symmetrical triangle that I'm just waiting for a breakout for Teradyne here very soon, because we're just testing that 200 SMA and we've got a couple supports at 115 for this stock. So this right here is a potential swing trade idea that we may take in the future, but let's take a look. So Teradyne Q2 revenue rose 29% to 1.086 billion. GAAP adjusted earnings at $1.76, so again a profitable company. So far we talked about Enphase Energy, we've talked about AMD, we've talked about Teradyne. So yeah, those are all profitable companies except for Teledoc, that actually is the only company that missed their earnings and EPS. We'll cover Boeing in just a second, and we'll cover Apple as well. We'll cover Apple, Boeing, Pinterest just in just a second. I just want to go over this very quickly. So, and they see Q3 GAAP earnings per share to be about $1.17 to $1.41, and the revenue to basically grow to 880 million to 960 million dollars. So that's also a jump year over year for the company. And Q3 earnings per share $1.38, revenue view 925 million moving forward. So again, I'll be watching this stock very closely. It is down about almost 4% on revenue and EPS beat. But that being said, if we do reach some support levels here, it's going to be on my watch list for a potential breakout. Because if you take a look at Apple, this was almost an identical pattern for Apple as well. So this right here was the Apple's pattern. And you'll notice we were forming this symmetrical triangle. So actually, let me clean up this chart a little bit. So I'm actually going to remove this. I'm going to remove this. So this right here is what I'm talking about, right? So you'll notice that we were kind of forming this symmetrical triangle here. So lower highs, higher lows, lower highs, and then we saw this breakout to the upside. So that's exactly what I'm looking for from Teradyne as well in the future. All right, so let's talk about, all right, so we've already covered Tesla, we've already covered Apple. Apple right now down about 1.21%, so not a big deal. We're gonna skip through that, but we're gonna cover some new stocks. So let's take a look at Boeing here very quickly. So Boeing just hovering over $218, actually up over 5% today. They actually did, yeah, I think they were supposed to report pre-market. Let's see. So more optimistic than he has been on the prospects for a significant recovery in 2023. All right, so here we go. So Boeing unexpectedly swings to second quarter adjusted profit as revenue jumps. So Boeing on Wednesday reported adjusted EPS of 40 cents per share with a loss of $4.79 per share a year ago. And the analyst polled at 72 cents per share. Revenue for the quarter jumped to 17 billion from 11.18 billion for the year earlier. So actually strong revenue number, and it's up over 5.5%. 234 is going to be the resistance I'd watch on the day. Let's see if we can actually break out over this level for Boeing. But the markets are open. Let's see where we are trading now. So the Nasdaq is up over 36 basis points. Let's go over to the indexes now. So this right here is going to be the Nasdaq index, up over 44 basis points. We got the S&P that's also up over 22 basis points, and this right here is going to be the Dow Jones, ticker symbol DJI. We are up over 13 basis points on the day. So all in all, pretty green start to the day. The futures were down last night, but now we're starting to see a little bit of recovery with Alibaba that's up over 2.5%. Let's take a quick peek at NEO, and NEO is up a little bit, close to over 3.5%, I believe. So 4.4%, back over $41 per share. All right, let's split this screen up. We're gonna put Tesla. Do you guys want to talk about newer stocks? Like, do you want to put new stocks here, or do you want to keep NEO, Tesla, like kind of like the usuals over here right now? Let's just put Boeing here too, like in the bottom left, and then we'll put let's see, do you guys want to put AMC, or do you want to put something else? Because we got Tesla top right, we got NEO at the top left, we got Boeing the bottom left, and then we'll put one more stock. Ford is reporting later today, right? Or did they already report? So Ford is up over 0.5%, but not really anything crazy. Let's see where Lucid's trading. So Lucid Motors up another 3.4%. So definitely pushing higher, right? Up over quite a bit after the merger. So what do you guys think? Is this like a dead cat bounce? Is this a green day as like a reversal trade? Are we going to see some more downside, or is this new all-time high as kind of like dip buying opportunity once again, and we're off to the races? By the way, I should open up my Bitcoin charts just so we have that on here as well, because Bitcoin was rallying past over 40,000 again. I mean, this was starting to move to the upside again, and that's what caused Coinbase and Mara, I believe, were also up. We actually did buy some. Well, I bought some Mara this morning. Only because I wanted to add more to my position. But there we go. Bitcoin almost at 40,000 again, hitting that resistance at 42,000. And we got Ethereum back over 2,200. So one of the things that I've actually noticed is that Bitcoin is moving up, but Doge is not moving up in the same like correlation anymore. So Bitcoin has actually rallied back up to almost 40,000, but Doge is still at 20 cents. Ideally, it would have been at 25 or 27 cents. So the movement or the correlation between the two is not as strong as what we have seen in the past. But anyway, so Bitcoin up over almost 29 basis points. Ethereum starting to pull back a little bit. But the markets, this is what's really important. So I think somebody asked me, when is Jerome Powell speaking? He's speaking at 2 p.m., actually 2:30 p.m. They report their statement at 2 p.m. and then they speak. The press conference is at 2:30 p.m. Eastern. I will be live to cover that as well. So we'll be going over that around that time. But the markets pretty flat for the most part. The S&P, the Dow is, and the Nasdaq is slightly up after the gap up that we saw right now. And Boeing starting to break out over 234. So there we go. That's the resistance that we're watching, and we are starting to see a breakout over 235 at the moment. NEO, again, this is again a time for us to establish direction for a lot of stocks. So I've always mentioned that in the first 15 minutes is when we really establish direction, right? What happens in the first 15 minutes for you guys, for everyone who's been watching the streams every single day? How do we decide direction in the first 15 minutes, right? What needs to happen for us to really start to either push higher or basically come down? Let me know in the live chat if you guys know. Let's take a look at Corsair here. So Corsair slightly up, 82 basis points. So we got 82 basis points up, almost at $29 now. So volume, yeah. So volume is a great piece, great indicator for us to look at. We need more volume for us to really push higher. But some of the other things that I really like to look at is the middle VWAP, which is right there in yellow you guys see, and also the moving averages, right? If patterns usually do get that initial spike the first 5-10 minutes and then start to curl back down, the volume fades, then the chances are then we see some lower highs and lower lows, similar to what we've seen for NEO in the past, right? The last couple of days, what we're really seeing is that initial spike, right? That initial burst in the morning. So this is what I'm talking about. So huge spike all the way to as of 44, 45, and then the volume kind of fades away. We break down below the moving averages and the middle leave up, and then continue to sell off intraday. So that's what we really don't want to see, right? We want to see the opposite of that. We want to see higher highs and higher lows, and for the patterns to actually make our trade above those moving averages. So that's what we're seeing with Tesla right now. It's starting to break to the downside and trading below the 21 EMA. That's the white line you guys see on the chart right now that we're seeing a breakdown below. All right, let's take a look at Mara here. So Mara's up over 4%, trading is at 28.16. That's probably because Bitcoin's starting to pull back a little bit. But the here we go, the Nasdaq's still up over 31 basis points. I want to quickly go over some of the other stocks that are reporting their earnings. So Boeing, of course, seeing a huge breakout here, up over 6.8%. That's a strong move to the upside. But let's take a look at PayPal. So PayPal was also on the watch, right, for the companies that's reporting their earnings. So PayPal and Facebook and Shopify and McDonald's. So let's just also take a look at Shopify here. So Shopify pulling back down about 0.5%. There is a resistance at close to 1650 for this stock right there. So that right there is going to be the resistance, and we are starting to come back down inside this horizontal pattern, or this sort of range-bound pattern for Shopify, close to 1575 all the way as low as 1433. The VIX still down about 2%, so nothing crazy going on here. Still got two levels that I'm watching, well actually three levels I'm watching, 20, 25, and 30. Those are the three levels that are super important. For the VIX, of course, there's an inverse correlation. If the VIX continues to push higher and spikes, then we could see the S&P 500 drop down as well. Spotify getting destroyed. Let's take a quick look. It's down about 6%. I'm assuming they also reported their earnings pre-market. Let's take a look. So Wall Street set for small gains ahead of rate decision. That's not it. All right. So Spotify reports quarterly loss per share, 19 cents per share in euros. So quarterly loss is there. Total MAUs, monthly active users, grew 22% to 365 million. But I want to see what the expectation was. So, all right, quarterly revenues at 2.33 billion euros versus 1.89. And quarterly MAU performance was slower than expected due to primarily lighter user intake during first half of the quarter. So that's another thing, right? We got another miss, right? So we got Spotify and Teledoc both missing on their expectations. So hence, as a result, the stock is down. So support level I'd watch for this company is going to be sitting roughly over here at close to $211. Not sure if we're going to see a retest down to that low, but the RSI, take a look at the RSI, right, after this sell-off. Oversold, right? MACD aggressively oversold. So this could be, for all long-term Spotify investors, it's like a huge deal that you can potentially kind of take advantage of. But you also want to take a look at the earnings as well and what went wrong with the top-line revenue and the EPS and why we're seeing a slower growth for the company. I'm personally, and I know you guys are going to laugh at this, but I'm personally more of a YouTube music kind of guy. I don't have Spotify at all. I personally use YouTube Music. I think that's a great app, especially when you can actually start kind of download the music and, of course, play it offline. Everything that's on YouTube, including videos, podcasts, songs, so on and so forth. But I've really enjoyed how Spotify's grown globally as a brand as well. But $211 is going to be the support level to watch. Let's see if we actually get a bounce back higher from those. But let's take a look at Boeing. Starting to pull back a little bit. $234 is still the level to watch. So Mayan says YouTube music is so much better. Yes, I know. Same here, YouTube for the music. That's great. That's good. It's good to know that I'm not the only one. All right, so the markets, the Nasdaq pulling back now. Starting to see that red candle show up. And this is the first 30 minutes. Let's go over to the first 5 minutes. We're seeing a pullback here. Same with the S&P and same with the Dow. Starting to see the pullback. So Tesla down to 645, still getting rejected at that $650 level. So we did breach 651 briefly, but then we sold off down to 645. That's been kind of like the resistance that we have talked about for Tesla for a really long time. And for NIO, now down to $40.37, still up 2.6% on the day, but starting to see a pullback once again. All right, let's take a look at, so Alibaba's up. Quick glance at the markets and how everything is doing. So starting with the companies that are the red most. We got Spotify down over 6. Apple's down over 2.7%. Are you kidding me? Look at that drop for Apple here. 142. Well, you know, we did talk about this in our yesterday's video. I mentioned 137 is the next level right there. So I wouldn't be surprised if we do see a retest. But man, that is a steep sell-off here for Apple. All after like great earnings for the company. Considering that we were hitting new all-time highs at 150, like that's now a double top resistance for Apple. Like once here, twice here, and both times we actually tested exactly 150, right? So 150 here, almost by the decimal, is the all-time high for Apple stock. So yeah, pretty steep sell-off for them. Enphase is down 1.8. Shopify is pulling back over 2.26%. Visa is down 1.6 after the earnings from yesterday. PayPal is down 69 basis points. Let me actually break down PayPal's numbers here very quickly if I can. So, all right, PayPal Q1 2021. Let's see if that's actually the one. So Starbucks reported, I think, Starbucks reported yesterday. They actually missed. Let's see where they are trading right now. So yeah, down about 3%. Huge pullback here. And this was very normal, right? We were expecting a pullback from Starbucks from a technical standpoint anyway, because I think we broke this down in our yesterday's live stream when we were talking about the RSI, the MACD, and how it's a little bit overbought considering the RSI was well over 74. The MACD was also pushing higher. So of course, the risk reward here doesn't make much sense to go long, right? You want to wait for a pullback or a correction for Starbucks to maybe retest its 50 EMA, or ideally would come down to 109. That's going to be a very strong support level where Starbucks would be very attractive at those valuations, right? For a potential swing trade and a reversal, because that's going to be down about 13% from its all-time highs. So that was kind of like the analysis on Starbucks. But PayPal here, this right here is the quick breakdown on my analysis, and of course fundamental analysis gets kind of boring to a lot of people, but this is super important for how the company is actually doing. And this is actually a quick comparison between PayPal and Square. If you want to take a look at the valuation here, we'll break this down in just a second. But this is the total payment volume, how PayPal measures like the total payment transaction volume that they're doing. And this has been growing since like 2012 from $150 million to well over 936 million in 2020. So Chad, I'll take a look at NASDAQ in just a second. I'll definitely do this right after PayPal, but 936 million in 2020. In Q1 they did 285 million. At this run rate, we can get up to as high as $1.1 billion in total payment volume for PayPal. That's going to be a 50% growth year over year. So that's total payment volume when you look at transaction per active account. So the way PayPal calculates this is that is the transaction amount on average per user. And you'll notice it's the same thing if you're going on something like a Fiverr or like a freelancing page. The more you're spending, the average spend is going up for that company. So for PayPal, that's the transaction that an average user is doing on PayPal, right? So that's gone up from $34 to well over $42.20 for the company, right? That's also growing. So it's kind of like the best of both worlds. Not only do we want more users on PayPal's platform, but if we can get those users to spend more money or transact in a bigger amount, that's kind of like the win-win for PayPal because they're making money on fees. So, and this right here is going to be the active accounts for the company, so how many accounts it total has. My expectation is that after this second quarter, they're actually going to go up to as high as 415 million users for PayPal. That's kind of like my expectations. And of course, this right here is going to be the revenue numbers, expecting 6.4 billion, total cost of sale 2.7, gross margin of 57%. PayPal kind of reports it in a funky way that it kind of clubs together like the cost of sales and then all these other operating expenses together. So you kind of have to strip out all these transaction expenses and the transaction credit losses to get the gross profit for the company. But expecting like an EPS all the way down here at $1.30 per share and a 24% margin for the company. So very quick update between Square and PayPal here, right, based on the valuation. So you'll notice that Square actually trades at a much higher trailing 12-month PE. PayPal trades at 70, Square trades at 369. Price to sales is much higher for PayPal based on a valuation, so it's trading at 15.8 versus Square at 9. 4 rupee, 52 for PayPal, 125 for Square. So you'll notice that drastic drop in Square's PE ratio based on the trailing and the forward. That just goes to show that they're expected to become really efficient over time and bring down their price to earnings based on the EPS growing substantially in the future as well. So that's that. The gross margin, of course, 58 to 21%, net margin 24% to 2.7 of Square's. So that number, we need that number to go up for the earnings per share to grow up as well. And revenue growth, of course, for Square has been much stronger than PayPal. So, I mean, both companies, based on these valuations, are overpriced, in my opinion. So I'm obviously not buying at these levels, but we'll continue to kind of monitor where they trade. And two support levels that I have for PayPal is at 278 all the way as low as 246, aligned with that 200 simple moving average. And for Square, we're also going to be watching close to $243. So that right there is going to be the level to watch, all the way as low as that 200 SMA. If it comes down to 200, I think that's going to be a great deal in my opinion for Square. And we never really broke down below this head and shoulder pattern. We actually ended up rallying all the way to highs of 267. But 200, in my opinion, is going to be a very strong level to watch for Square. So that's one of the things that you want to do in this market, is that you want to have a wish list. You want to have a buy list that you have ready, right? You're not executing on that yet. You're just going out there, screening for stocks. You're getting ideas from different communities that you're part of. You're getting more and more ideas. You're doing the research. You're putting the work now. You're establishing price levels where you want to buy these stocks. And in the next pullback or a correction, if you see one, once they're there, that's when you start executing, right? That's when you pull the trigger, because the more patient you are, you let the stocks come to you, to your desired level, the better your future returns are going to be moving forward, right? So if you're overpaying for a stock, you're diminishing your future returns. But if you're underpaying for a stock, if you're paying a fair price for a great company, you're actually increasing your future returns, even though they're same price target, right? Nvidia, let's take a simple example. Nvidia, if it has a price target of 250, you're gonna have better returns if you buy it at 100 versus if you buy it at 150, right? So that's the same concept here. You want to be very patient with your entries, and have very strict rules as to when you want to buy a certain stock. All right, so NEO still up over 2.2%, but we're seeing that momentum to the downside on the 1 minute chart, so continuing to make those lower highs and lower lows. And this right here is going to be Tesla, so we are down about 45 basis points, still struggling to break out over 650. Mara is starting to pull back a little bit. So, all right, so quick question based on when I views when people say overvalued and overpriced. The same, how can a company be undervalued, be overpriced? So, in my opinion, again, so undervalued, overvalued simply means the valuation of the company, right? It can be, like, for example, in my opinion, Nvidia right now is overvalued, right? Based on the value, based on the metrics, the price to earnings, price to sales, Nvidia right now is overvalued at the moment. Now, when we talk about overpriced and underpriced, I'm specifically mentioning the stock price for that company. You have to think of it as a stock price resulting in what your future returns are going to look like. So a very simple example is the S&P 500 gives you like a 10% return, right? Over the last 100 years or so, it's given you like anywhere between 8 to 10%. That's a market-beating return that you want. You want something that's going to pay you more than 10%, 12% per year, 15% per year, 20% per year annually, so that you actually make sense for you to invest in that stock versus the S&P 500. So Apple, in my opinion, right now can be undervalued because it deserves a market cap of $3 trillion. But the stock price is overpriced right now. So if you buy it now, your future returns are going to be much lower. They're not going to be market beating. You're not going to beat the S&P 500 by just holding Apple, let's say for the next 12 months, in my opinion. So that's what I mean when I talk about being overpriced, underpriced versus the company being overvalued or undervalued. So I hope that clears it up a little bit, and I hope that makes sense just slightly or a teeny bit. But let me know if it doesn't. I'm more than happy to explain a little bit further. But all right. So Mas, thank you so much for that. Let's take a look at NEO. So NEO right here is going to be on the daily chart. We're seeing a little bit of a bounce back from 38.50 yesterday. Right now, still a red candle trading below the moving averages. There is going to be a strong range here. So support still watching that 38.50. Resistance is going to be aligned with those moving averages perfectly. So we're still trading below the moving averages. There is going to be some more consolidation in between that range. in my opinion, and until we see a breakout over those moving averages, like we talked about in our yesterday's video, that those moving averages, the 50 EMA and the 200 SMA, are very important for NEO to kind of regain control and for us to break past over $47 and then eventually worry about $55 per share. But for NEO, expect some more consolidation sideways, 38.50 support, and this right here, $43 is going to be the resistance to watch. Talking about, what is it, Lucid Motors, LCID. So still consolidating sideways, and again, we talked about it during our yesterday's live stream, so we are still range bound. $29 is going to be a resistance, and the support level is going to be sitting right here for Lucid Motors at $20.75. So those right there are going to be two levels to watch. We're still pretty much range bound, not enough direction here for us to make a clear estimate. Even though like the RSI is very neutral, the MACD still suggests that we could see some more upside potential for Lucid and a potential retest to highs of $29.31. So Palantir up 2%. There we go, bouncing off of $21. Yesterday's low was actually $21.09. And I had the low at $21.07 because this is a previous support, right? We validated here once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. So many times we actually perfectly validated $21 for Palantir, which is why I do strongly believe, I do think for Palantir that this right here is about as low as we could see Palantir, unless the NASDAQ corrects. If the NASDAQ pulls back, down about 10%, 12%, corrects from all-time highs, that's the only way I see Palantir breaking down below 21, retesting lows of $17 or $18. That's the only way I see that happening. But otherwise, in my opinion, $21 is a lot of demand at that level, as we have already seen in the past. So we perfectly bounce off at that level. But resistance at $23, that's the level, kind of aligned with those moving averages, similar to what we just discussed for NEO. We got the 50 EMA and the 200 SMA sitting right there at $23 that we need to break out over for NEO. All right, let's take a quick look at all these stocks here. So Apple still down over 2%. Tesla starting to make some type of recovery, flat on the day. NEO also trying to push higher, up almost 3%. We got Mara that's up over 4%. Coinbase is up over 2.2% also. We got DraftKings that's up. We got Alibaba, of course, is up. Upstart is up over 3%. Upstart, man. Upstart's been so volatile. It gives you like these small rays of hope that it has potential to go up, and then the sellers bring it back down to like $110 or $115. I kid you not. All this entire time, Upstart has given us like these small hopes that we're gonna break out over this $134, $135, and then we kind of come back down to $110, $112. But that being said, we're trading below the moving averages, and I wouldn't be surprised to see further breakdown, down to like $80 or $90 for Upstart, at which point I will be kind of loading more shares on Upstart. But 110 has been holding up pretty nicely for a long time, right? This right here is a support level that we've talked about for a really long time on Upstart. So I'll watch $110 pretty nicely right now. All right, let's take a look at AMD here. So AMD, let's take a quick look. Wow, giving up on most of those gains here. So down about, it's only up 28 basis points. $90 is going to be a support level to watch for AMD. Let's take a look at BB. What's going on here? So Blackberry is up, shows it's up, it's up over 8%. There we go. Starting to see a move off of that 200 SMA for Blackberry. That right there is going to be support at 962, 965. So yeah, the RSI, the MACD check show really solid potential move to the upside. So the next resistance I watch is going to be that 50 EMA sitting at $11 for Blackberry. All right, so the markets here, the Nasdaq up over 28 basis points, back over 14,007. The S&P is down about 11, and the Dow looks like taking a little bit of a selling pressure here in the last 15-20 minutes, trading just over 35,000 at the moment. All right, VIX pretty much at 1937. Not really much going on there, and Bitcoin just testing highs of 39,600. Is BlackBerry even selling something? I don't know. I haven't looked into this company fundamentally, but I'm sure somebody in the live chat can definitely, or definitely has more information on this and what's going on. It's probably I don't know how much is shorted right now. Let's take a look at Vertex Pharmaceutical and where that's trading. Oh, there we go. Trading past over $204. We've got a resistance at 205 for this stock. 205. They're actually reporting their earnings also. I'm going to be watching very closely. So there we are, Vertex Pharmaceutical, right there. And they're reporting on Thursday, so tomorrow. Tomorrow, Amazon reports. Super excited about that. Amazon, right there. All Amazon really needs is a split. If they can do a split, we're off to the races. $4,000 plus, $4,500 plus stock for Amazon. But I don't think it's gonna happen. Like, they've just never done it, so I don't think they're gonna do a split here. But Vertex Pharmaceutical has been on the watch list. Very small position in this. I'm gonna be watching the earnings tomorrow, but I think it's one of the undervalued stocks in the markets right now. Is what I think in the biotech space. Right, Apple down 2%. We've already looked into this, but 137 is the next support level moving forward. So let's take a look at Teledoc. Let's see if it actually is bouncing off. There we go. There's a lot of buying pressure coming in from Teledoc. Right, 133 was the low for the day. We got up to it as 139, 140 right now. So this has been a strong intraday gain of over 5.5%, 5.6% for Teledoc. So strong momentum to the upside, and this right here is going to be the next resistance at close to $144, $145 per share for the company. All right, let's take a look at ChargePoint. So ChargePoint's also up 2.78%. This has been part of our swing trade earlier we took at $22. So let's see if we actually do get a bounce back higher from this level. So all right, Raj asked me about ChargePoint. So the MACD, the R side, looked very strong for ChargePoint for a potential retracement back up to $27, $28. Right, so the R side started to push higher once again from being oversold. The MACD looks like it's potentially going to cross over the signal line. If it does, that's going to be a bullish signal to the upside. And we've got a support level at $22 validated. So if you're taking a swing trade here, this is a very low risk, high reward play in my opinion. But of course, you need to have a very tight stop limit in place right underneath some support levels. But resistance next, and the target is going to be at closer to $27. That's going to be the 50 EMA or the 200 SMA to watch for ChargePoint moving forward. So Aaron, I was actually kidding. Why would the stock split push the stock up? I mean, that's been kind of like the norm for Tesla, Apple, for Nvidia. Like Nvidia has been pushing higher aggressively. So every time you've seen those splits, prices have usually, like not always, like fundamentally they shouldn't, but they have moved up for a lot of companies, right? I mean, this is a complete 50% gain for Nvidia, right? We saw based on absolutely nothing. Well, they did announce a few different things, but for the most part, I mean, that didn't warrant like a 50% gain to the upside, but that's usually have happened. So what's your schedule for doing live YouTube videos? Usually at market opens, try to do these as many times a week as possible, but we'll also do like another live stream later today. So I'm actually gonna end this one in like 10-15 minutes and then kind of take a break and then come back when Jerome Powell is going to be speaking on inflation, because that's going to be the most important piece for this week, and perhaps where we moving forward, like where we go in the future in terms of interest rates tapering and their acknowledgement of what the GDP growth looks like. So we're going to be talking about the unemployment rate, what's causing unemployment rate to be where it is. The GDP growth, they revised their SEP, which is the Summary of Economic Projections, to well over 7% GDP growth in 2021. So we'll see that if they actually revise that, because the last thing we want, a couple things that we don't want is a situation where we get into stagflation, which is where economic growth slows down and prices remain high. So that's stagflation, and then we also don't want hyperinflation, where prices are running out of control and we get up to as 8%, 10%, 12% year over year. So all those things are probably going to be addressed in that live stream, and then I'll try to break down as much as I can from my understanding of the macros. So all in all, I mean, it's going to be an exciting conference because you're in one of the two sides. You're either in the camp of transitory or you're in the camp that it's going to be permanent inflation. So, and that's what's really going to drive interest rates and tapering moving forward. So we'll be watching that very closely. Caddy's on auto like. What does that mean? Yeah. So all right. So the S&P down about 7. Nothing really going on there. VIX is also pretty much flat on the day. Nothing really going on. Let's take a look at VXN. VXN also down about 1.36, but we're seeing a little bit of a spike here. So VXN, remember, it's correlated to the Nasdaq, and VIX is correlated to the S&P. It's a volatility indicator that really gets us a good understanding on how much volatility, well, self-explanatory, but volatility is there in the markets. And when these things spike, we see the Nasdaq and the S&P also pull back. So you want to position yourself as a buyer when these things are spiking. When the VXN is at 37.40, that's when we want to be a buyer in the markets, as opposed to when it's testing support levels, when it's at 20, when it's at 19. That's you want to either you want to observe the markets, kind of sit back and hold, or you want to start considering about rebalancing or trimming your positions if your price targets are hit. But I generally don't buy at these levels when we're hitting like these sort of support levels here. So this is kind of like the range where I'm just like sitting back and just observing the market. Same with the VIX. It's kind of like this area where I'm just like not doing anything and just observing. I'm more of a buyer when this actually spikes higher. So Square, yes, Nicholas, I can do that for you. So Square we actually went over earlier, and now I'm actually going to write all the stocks down that we go over so I don't miss it in the future. But Square is reporting earnings next week, I believe. So not this week, but next week they're reporting. So there's a lot of companies that are reporting next week too. Well, we got NIO's delivery numbers and earnings coming up in August. And then next Tuesday, I remember there was another company that's reporting on, well, it's on my calendar. Let me just check that really quickly. Because I remember I put that on my calendar today. There was a company reporting next week as well. Corsair Gaming. Corsair Gaming is reporting their numbers on Tuesday. Tuesday is going to be August 3rd. And I think Square is also reporting next week as well. But that being said, all right, let's take a look. So August 5th, all right, so it's right here on their trading view. So August 5th is going to be Thursday. So next Thursday is when they're reporting their earnings. But I'll put a dedicated video out over the weekend as well on Square and Corsair Gaming, of course, and some of the other companies that are reporting their earnings. But $243 is going to be a support to watch. Kind of aligned with that 50 EMA. I do expect that to move up higher as we develop more price points. But 259 is going to be a resistance all the way as $278 per share for Square. So it's kind of been on a strong uptrend here. Recently we're seeing a little bit of a pullback, which is very normal considering the markets have also seen some type of a correction as well. And $243 is going to be a support level right now. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. That's probably the first time I actually got a compliment on my voice. But thanks. Yeah. All right, so NIO starting to push higher here. 4.6% on the day. We're really catching some bids and breaking past over $41.33. So really, in terms of its price valuation, which stock? Quickly go over Nvidia. Okay. So Nvidia, based on its price and its valuation, I think we just went over that. Actually, you know what? I have it in a different spreadsheet. We broke this down yesterday in the live stream, so I don't want to spend too much time on this because I know that it's gonna get like a little repetitive for everyone who was watching yesterday. But for the most part, in my opinion, Nvidia is kind of like the overvalued of the bunch when you look at the valuation metrics of these three companies, AMD, Intel, Nvidia. So Nvidia, of course, trading at 92, trailing 12-month PE, forward PE is trading at 11, price to sales at 25. So just these two metrics are incredibly overvalued. And when you look at enterprise value to sales, also trading at 25 levels. So all in all, I mean, the quick summary here is that it is overpriced in my opinion, unless you're okay with paying a premium on the stock. You know, that's a decision that you need to make. But in my opinion, that's the premium that you would be paying. I'd rather wait for like lows of either 150, like 160 levels to start thinking about that valuation once again. Because that's one of the things, right? Even though Nvidia can be undervalued right now as a company based on like the future growth, like, you know, Nvidia with everything that they have going on, they could potentially get up to like $1 trillion market cap, but the future returns are going to diminish if you're overpaying for a stock. That's why you want to pay 160, like 150, even as low as 125 for the stock. The more discount we can get, the better our returns are going to be in the future. So this right here is Coinbase starting to come down. Apple is seeing a little bit of recovery, down about 1.5% still. Let's look at Amazon. So Amazon up 30 basis points here. Trading past over 3,600. Let's take a look at AMD, how that's doing. 66 basis points in the green. All right, let's take a look at Pinterest, because I did see somebody talking about Pinterest here. So Pinterest, again, it's got a pretty wide range. It's just been range bound for a long time. It kind of has a very similar pattern than Netflix. We talked about this stock in our yesterday's live stream as well. So not really much movement here for Pinterest. The R side of the MACD look good, but we're still kind of trading inside this range. I'd put like a couple resistance levels here. One's at $89, and then another one at closer to this level at closer to $81 a share. Support levels stay put at 66 all the way as low as $62 a share for Pinterest. Google, let's take a look. Up another 1.2% on the day. Like, this stock is just non-stop. This thing is just continuing to make new all-time highs. Absolutely incredible move, right? So the R size stayed pretty elevated for the longest time, and it's just consistently just pushing higher. And they deserve it, right? I mean, Google, in my opinion, was very, very undervalued from the beginning. But over 50% gain year to date, 56% has been very, very good for Google stock. I think this is a company that, based on the numbers right now, is, I should say, like fairly valued for where it's trading. So price to earnings, you'll notice that after the run up, this is after the run up that we're seeing, it's trading at 37, and price to sales at 9.6, which is, I would say, just a notch, just a notch over the traditional metrics, but definitely strong move to the upside. All right, so Canada CPI is down from May. That's interesting to note here. We'll see how inflation turns out like for the coming months and what those readings are going to be. So Apple P is only 28, yeah. So yeah, for inflation, we'll see where those numbers end up moving forward. I'm expecting some type of a deceleration soon, because like, we can't have prices continue to go up. And you also take a look at the things that are actually driving the price higher. Used cars have been the biggest reason why we have seen inflation go up higher as well. All right, let's take a look at BNGO. Where's that trading right now? So up over 5.88%, bouncing off of that 200 SMA looks like. So we got that first bounce, we've got that second bounce right now. So I feel like BNGO is almost trying to make a bigger move very, very soon, because we've got this trend line here, we've got this trend line here. In my opinion, there is going to be a much bigger move coming for BNGO as we continue to kind of fill in this channel, and as we trade above that 200 SMA. You'll notice that we are kind of falling in this wedge where we get rejected from the top at that 50 exponential moving average and find support at the 200 SMA. So this right here is going to be the level, like right there. We're just trading inside that range, and eventually we're going to break. We're going to break with heavy volume on either side for BNGO. It's kind of hard to predict exactly which direction we're going to break out to. But 200 SMA historically has a much higher influence on the 50 EMA, so that just gives a little bit more odds for a breakout to the upside for BNGO. All right, so the broader markets, Nasdaq starting to recover a little bit, and the Dow is pulling back. We've seen that choppy trade action, like back and forth so many times, where the Dow rallies, the Nasdaq pulls back, the Nasdaq rallies, the Dow basically pulls back. So, and the S&P is just like a spectator in this battle between tech growth versus value. So the S&P doesn't really do much; it's kind of flat, and then we mostly see money kind of flow from this over to here, or like from here over to this. And the S&P is just like, all right, whatever, guys. It's like flat on the day. But yeah, I mean, these patterns are just like straight up inverted right now. You'll notice the Nasdaq is rallying and the Dow just continues to fall here. Alright guys, so I'm actually gonna take off. Don't forget, I am gonna be live though at around 2 p.m. Eastern. That's gonna be whatever, I think it's gonna be like 11 a.m. Pacific, and then midnight around Indian Standard Time. August 5th is your birthday, so happy birthday in advance from all of us. Hope you have a great day. But yeah, so thank you so much for joining in. I really appreciate you guys. This right here is gonna be the Webull and the Patreon links if you guys want to get access to our private Discord, the buy and sell alerts as well. But I will take a break and I will be live once again shortly to cover Jerome Powell's speech, and of course go over everything macroeconomics related. One of my favorite subjects that we will be talking about is the economy. So thank you so much. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the day, and I'll see you guys soon.